Hello, and welcome to a new episode of The Career Changers. Today, our guest is Dedee Kai, founder and performance coach of Fit to Profit, and on a mission to help entrepreneurs create financial freedom and build wealth from the inside out. Today, we will discuss her career journey and why self worth equals net worth. Hi, Didi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And for first and foremost, thank you so much for hosting. And so that way we can have this type of
Thank,
conversation. Yep.
thank you. I'm really excited. So, first of all, what was your dream job when you were a child?
Great question. Because what was interesting is when I was growing up, I'm the only child, grew up in an extended family household with my little cousin. And I remember just playing imaginary play. And I just wanted to be a fixer of some type. I didn't know if I was really a doctor but I was just always a helper, a healer of some sort. I always asked him to pretend to be hurt or sick or sad, and we would just come into this room, and for whatever reason, magically, I would heal him and he would leave being happy or completely mobile again. Yeah, I knew at a very young age that I knew I wanted to help people in some way.
And how did that turn out? Did you actually study anything like that, or did you have a job related to what you were dreaming when you were a child, or you changed
Yes.
completely?
So what's really interesting is yes, because of that. And then of course when we moved to the States and I started really considering what I wanted to do with my career, actually wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to be specifically a therapist. And so I went to school for that for my undergrad, actually. That's why I have my background in cognitive and counseling psychology with the intention to go to medical school to be a psychiatrist. But life happened. And long story short, I am doing what I consider pretty close to being a psychiatrist. It's just I don't write prescriptions and or had to go through that many years of schooling. Yeah, it just I think it's really meant to be that what I do now is very similar to what I would have been doing as a psychiatrist or a counselor.
Mm. And what was the turning point that made you decide to pursue a different path between your previous job and where you are now?
Tactically, it was more so wanting to be emotionally supporting my mom as she was going through a divorce at the time. And she offered me an opportunity to start a brick and mortar restaurant business with her, and then close out her salon businesses. So that's on a really technical standpoint. But the real, honestly, turning point after that business exposure that's how I really endeavored into my business journey and for a few years. And then after that, I actually lost my girlfriend, my best friend, to suicide the week of my wedding and realized that I actually was suffering in silence as well. And I was completely burnt out from my brick and mortar business. I was burnt out emotionally as I was trying to heal from my past traumas. Long story short, I realized that I have to change. And also at the same time, I vowed to myself that no one should ever have to go through what I went through that week. And I have the responsibility, knowing what I know, first and foremost, to heal myself and perhaps help other women who are going through the same thing to overcome all of the emotional and mental challenges to live happier and more fulfilling lives. So that was really the pivotal moment of my life and business was on when I started healing myself, and then which led me to one thing next to another, finding or founding Fit to Profit. And with
Mhm.
Fit to Profit, because I had to heal myself from a very physical level, mental, emotional, spiritual. And that's why we really take a holistic approach to how we help women entrepreneurs build themselves up from the inside out and ultimately stand in their confidence to be a successful CEO.
Mhm. Let's talk about the topic of self-worth and how do you define self-worth and why is it so essential for personal and professional success?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I definitely have looked up like what is the dictionary definition of self-worth. And it's pretty self-explanatory there. It's just self-worth. Like how worthy do you feel about yourself? So innately, we don't have ever this conversation around that. Every one of us is created to be perfect, right? Healthy, happy, and have the ability and the talent to do whatever we need it to. But interestingly, just like myself, I'm sure so many of us grew up in the most, I guess, either for me was challenging situation and having to overcome our traumas, etc. And so then we started really feeling less than each time, every time we encounter an experience, right? So that level of innately feeling like we're perfect and complete and good enough for everything diminishes every time, right? As we grow and as we experience life. And so at some point, just for example, my pivotal moment made me realize that I was not valuing myself, honestly, because I was trying to heal from my past trauma of being assaulted at a very young age at 15. And it's really the ability to feel confident enough and really that we are deserving, right? To exist, deserving to be happy, deserving to be having a successful career or running a successful, profitable business is the ability to believe that is my definition of self-worth. And through my personal journey, is exactly that. It's really going back to the foundation of really believing in ourselves whole and complete, right? And that we are worthy for whatever it is that we're looking to achieve in our lives and then being in true alignment with who we are.
And so you mentioned that self-worth equals net worth. Can you explain what you mean by this?
Yeah. I love that question so much. So, as I explained that it's really truly your belief about yourself and what you deserve, right? So, I can speak from my entrepreneur experience when I first started my business. I was told to charge a certain rate being a new coach, a new consultant. And I could have taken their advice, but I really felt like up until that point have put in my dues and really have experienced business, really have experienced transformation in my life, really have also invested quite a bit of money into getting the knowledge and learning the wisdom from other coaches to be the coach that I wanted to be. So I feel like I wanted to charge more. And because of the work that I have been putting into up until that point, I felt confident enough to say, no, I appreciate that guideline, but I really don't believe that I should be starting out that low based on my experience and really truly have the confidence to say, I'm going to charge this much and happens to be 5 times what I was told to charge. And
Mhm.
I believe, I think I didn't think much about it for just being from a tactical standpoint. No, I need to survive on this much money per month. I can't be charging that little from a practical standpoint, but in reflection and in retrospect, it's because of the confidence that I had in myself, being able to value my work so much and believing in that I can actually help people do what they need to do to get the results that they want. I should be charging more because my work is worthy of the value that they are going to be paying for. Because I was able to charge more and believed in that I should charge more, and I did. I went out there within a couple of weeks, landed my very first 3 clients, and then started making money right off the bat when I first started my business. That is the self-worth that created the net worth, right? Because I believe that I should be charging more, and at a certain amount, I went out there and got the client. So then I was getting paid what I deserve to be paid. So it's the same thing. And I can use the same example in a corporate setting, or if someone has a career, right? If someone is really believing in their work and they know that they are producing and they are like the asset of the team, they are confident enough to step into their boss's office after 6 months of being a team player or a year and really say, look, I really love my position, but I also, number one, would like to be promoted because I want to be challenged, and I'm confident enough that I can fulfill whatever the next level of responsibilities you have for me, and being confident that they can fulfill that new role if they were to get promoted, right? So there you go again. If they are confident in themselves, they would be able to step in and ask for a promotion without any hesitation and being able to negotiate for it and ask for the salary that they want. And I know for a fact too, and you probably know too, that usually men get paid more than women in general. And so women truly need to be able to feel worthy about themselves and the work that they do and understand the value that they put out into their work and career or business to be able to command the rates and or the salary that they deserve with confidence. And that's really what I mean when it comes to your self-worth is your net worth in that sense.
Hmm. So once someone understands more about their self-worth, then which are the steps that they can take to improve that and consequently their financial success?
I say this all the time. Self-worth is really built from the inside out. The first number one rule or the number one pillar or step that we take is definitely self-care. And there's no way around it. So number one is really establishing your system of how are you taking care of yourself on a physical level, emotional, spiritual, and financial. And I have to have the financial in there is because also I'm also a certified money coach. So I had to learn about money. I have to learn how to earn it, how to save it, how to invest it, and how to share it wisely. And so it's definitely that is self-care, having a really self-care system, and then having a relentless mindset about investing in themselves, like having a growth mindset. And then last but not least, really allowing it to be the lifestyle of what this is my new identity. This is who I am as a person because I am worthy enough to be an expert in my field and continuing on to really investing in themselves. As simple as that. It's just being willing to invest in yourselves. And that means really setting yourself up with a system of self-care, then a system of how you can continue to grow yourself as a person or as a professional.
So what are some of the common challenges that people face when trying to build their self-worth?
It's definitely, we call the five success principles that we abide by in my business and even in my life, is that the five principles is definitely responsibility. We talk about that. One, we have to take full responsibility for our own success and failures. The second piece is commitment. Then we talk about discipline and we talk about being in action. And then last but not least, in service. And so those are the five things that we focus on because here's the thing, when it comes to setting up a self-care system, if we're not responsible for our own success or for our own health, you're not going to be disciplined to make the changes that you need to make. The challenges are those things. It's like those emotional and mental barriers that we all have from just having a life, living life, and the experiences and not very positive experiences. So it's the emotional and mental challenges that we really have to handle. And we have to start that on a very practical standpoint with really taking care of ourselves physically, and then last but not least, spiritually, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be a religion. You don't have to belong to a religion, but being able to know that our humankind, our race is really meant to be connected, right? That we exist in community and that we are to be in connection with ourselves first, and then our families, and then our neighbors, and then our communities, right? Yeah, those are my ways of really getting clear on what it is that I want in life, but truly starting with having a foundation with knowing your values. From there, establish a self-care system, continue to invest in yourself, and then following those five success principles. And yeah, then ultimately you get to fulfill your own definition of success and what that looks like for you.
Mm. And so, what mindset shift is necessary for someone to move from a place of low self-worth to high self-worth?
Yeah. It's a great question because there's so many layers when it came to that, right? I would say that just as I have alluded earlier, with just the belief that if you recall any moment when you were little where you knew you wanted something, whether it's 3, 5, 7, 8, this is definitely before 12 years old, that you wanted something so badly, and you also believed that you could have it. I'm sure we all can recall that one moment, right? And then what happened? Right? What happened throughout the years to where we stopped believing in that? Because there are now limiting beliefs, right? And so that's what I would say too, is really tapping into believing that you are whole and complete, and that you have the ability to go back to believing in yourself. And it takes work. And for anything that is holding us back as a limiting belief, is just really a lie. It's just we are biologically, we are made to survive. And so if anything that we are having a limiting belief around is was meant so that we could survive. And that's why we were able to survive up until this point and still overcame all of the challenges, right? We all have challenges in life and tragedies and all of the things, but you have survived. So all of these lies actually protected you. However, at some point, it becomes like a constriction. It becomes like more of like handcuffs for your next level of growth. So I want to encourage people to really excavate to see what are some of the limiting beliefs that they're living with, and how are those so different than when we were little. And it's really knowing that we can do a lot with today's training, technology, all of the things to really start shifting and rewiring those limiting beliefs and bringing ourselves back to really believing in that I am whole, complete, and perfect, and that I have the ability to do whatever it is that I want to do if I choose to, and if I choose to put my mind and heart into it. So that's what I would say. It's a lot, but it's just really believing in really the human potential and what we're like capable of, doing.
And from your experience, when is the turning point from when someone is starting to work on themselves and become more aware of their self-worth to when they're starting to see an improved financial success and career growth?
Oh goodness. I would say really depends on the gap, right? For example, depends on where you start and where you want to go. If somebody, for example, if you want to train for a marathon, it's easier for me to use this analogy because I'm
Yeah.
also a long distance runner. Depends on where you start. If you've never ran like a mile in your entire life and you want to run a marathon within 3 months, yes, it's possible, but there's also injuries and all of the things that you have to think about if you want to do it too fast and too soon. So I would say it really depends on where you start and how far the gap is and where you want to go. But if you and you just have to really trust that this is going to be a process. For example, your self-worth didn't get diminished or lowered overnight. It was it was probably from the first times, like for my experience, when I was trying to speak up and I was told to be quiet because I was too loud, right? So it could be from that first time and then something else happened. So it takes time for the like as long as I could remember in my early childhood, all the way up into like young adult, I have experienced so many experiences to have me feel like, oh, I need to curl up and be small, like to be safe and things like that. So it's the same process to start unraveling all of that, right? So it's going to take some time, and it really depends on how often, right? Like you want to do it, but unless you turn it into a lifestyle, it's really 80% of the work. In everything that you do, it's self-worth is all self-development, all mindset is 80% of whatever it is that you're doing, 20% is tactical and strategy. So I would say depends on when you start. But I have good news for you that number one, you cannot get it wrong. You cannot get it wrong. The minute you start investing in yourself, you cannot get it wrong. Just like me, I had no idea of all the trainings that I've done. Did I know that I was supposed to do XYZ strategy training? No, absolutely not. But I just basically one step at a time, I started working out, which led me to long distance running, then to yoga training, then teacher training, then holistic health training. So if as long as you make a decision to work on yourself, you can't get it wrong. One thing will lead you to the right step, to the next thing. Secondly, it compounds over time,
Mhm.
just like interest, right? It compounds over time. Just again, you did not gain the 35 pounds overnight. It's every perhaps it's relevant. Every holiday season, you ate 3 cookies more than you should, right? And then after the years without letting yourself go, you've gained a 35 pounds again.
Mhm.
So it's the same process. And then to undo all of that. So it just like you're willing to work on yourself and become a better version of yourself, it compounds over time. It depends on how much and how bad you want it, but that you can't get it wrong. And if it's always going to benefit you, why wouldn't you do it? Right. And that's why in that place, you can really trust that it's just one step of a time, like at a time, baby steps, right? Baby step. It could be just you starting drinking more water today, like just one more glass of water. Then tomorrow will be 2 more glasses. And then maybe in 2 months, you're going to start going outside or things like that. But first, you have to make a decision, and that you can never get it wrong and is always going to compound. So those are some good news for you. I hope that answers the question because really it's really case to case. It's really depends on the gap and what you're looking, to create in life. But that has been my experience on how everything works in my life now because it's been truly a journey and I am still a work in progress. I work on it every day. I have my non-negotiables that I abide by. It's my faith, my fitness, my family, and then fulfillment. Those are my 4 core values, and those are my non-negotiables. And of course, it took me a little while to get to know myself before I realized, okay, these are the most important things in my life. These are the only things I want to focus on, right? And
Mhm.
then incorporating that, and that becomes my self-care system, like I mentioned. And then it's just doing it every day and then doing it even when I don't want to, and then managing myself emotionally, mentally when I want to quit. Long distance running is no joke. And then you just have to be really intentional with what you're doing day to day, but it's really baby steps that is eventually going to create that big of a difference in your life.
Mhm. What advice would you give to anyone who is looking to build their net worth?
I would say really getting into what are your core values and are you living your core values? I know people who are maybe listening who are already successful, but I can guarantee you, based on my experience, you can be successful, but are you happy and fulfilled? That's the conversation that we're having here, right? And if you are not, it's the same process, like what I just talked us through, right? And then even if you are, what is your next level to that? If I were to ask you if you can rate yourself from 1 to 10 in every single area of your life, right? Money, finances, relationships, all of things, are they all tens? And if they're not, there's always going to be area of growth. There's always going to be ways to improve. There's always that next level. That's why when it comes to self-development and building self-worth, there's no arrival. There's no arrival. There's always that next level, right? And even if you're making money, the first 100,000, and then the 250,000, then 500 million, and then the millions. And what is your next level? In doing that, it takes the level of discipline and self-worth, the right conversation, things like that, connecting to the right CEOs. Are you really running your business as a CEO, or are you just working in your business as an employee? So there are so many different layers, but what I'm talking about is really truly being happy and fulfilled while earning that money that you want to earn, and having it like a living a meaningful life.
Mhm. And for those who are just starting the journey of building self-worth, what advice would you give them in a few words?
Believe in yourself or love yourself first. Those are the 2 things that I live by and I coach my clients on. And truly from those places, if you need to re-listen to this, listen to the 5 principles of success. Are you operating your life and business on those 5 principles? And are
Mhm.
you violating any of those? If and hey, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes it's weighs heavier over here and less over here. It's like a balancing act. In a way, it takes awareness and it takes the willingness to invest in yourself.
So we're reaching the end of this episode, but we have a last question that we asked all of our guests. If you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
It's what I said. It's love yourself first. I really wish that I was living in that place and I wasn't. And that's why I allowed whatever happened to happen to me when I was 15 and when I got assaulted. It's not anyone's fault, actually, because it's now makes me who I am today. But I wish that I loved myself more and enough then to say, no, I don't want to engage in this situation. And I could have gotten myself out of it, but I just didn't know better. Like I had no self-esteem. I didn't feel good about myself. And so I was trying to go with everything and anything is just a way to validate myself, hopefully from the external world, from the outside. But that's why love yourself first is my mantra. And the way I live now is it has to be from that place. I have a family now. I'm happily married almost 12 years. I dated my boyfriend and my husband now for 6 years. So we've been together for almost 18 years. I'm with two kids, 8 year olds and 4 year olds. But it's never like a question of me really prioritizing myself first so that I can serve them. That is just how things like how life works and how things work.
Thank you, Didi, so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. For our listeners, be sure to check out Fit to Profit and connect with Didi to start your journey toward financial freedom and self-worth. Until next time. Thank you, Didi.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thanks.